You might have heard about some bugs that fish eat, like mayflies and caddis and stoneflies and midges. But fish don't only eat insects. In fact, there are a whole bunch of other critters swimming around in the water that make a great meal for a hungry fish. The more you learn about a fish's food and the flies we use to imitate them, the more fish you'll put in a net. Today, we'll take a look at 3 other common food sources that fish love to eat. First up are scuds and sow-bugs. Scuds and sow-bugs are both freshwater crustaceans, like shrimp, and who doesn't love shrimp? They have a highly segmented body with tails and antennae, and come in a variety of colors, but mostly drab earth tones. Next up are aquatic worms, or you might hear them referred to as annelids. These are similar to the worms you dig up in your garden, just a bit smaller and shorter. They drift through the water without moving much, so they're an easy meal for a hungry fish. And next are eggs. No, not those eggs, we ain't making an omelet. I'm talking about fish eggs. These eggs will be present in the river whenever fish are spawning. As fish spawn, not every egg makes it into their nests, and some will drift through the water. Other fish will quickly eat these eggs because they're a protein-packed meal that can't escape. Now, when should you expect to see these food items and imitate them with your flies? Scuds, sow-bugs, and worms can be present year-round, and they're a great option to throw if there aren't any bugs hatching. Even when aquatic insects are hatching, fish will eat these little critters sometimes just to add a little bit of variety to their diet. Because eggs are present whenever fish are spawning, they'll be available for you to fish either in the spring or fall, depending on what fish you've got in your local rivers. It's important to note that scuds, sow-bugs, and worms never hatch into adults. They spend their entire lives in the water, so we will only imitate these bugs with nymphs. Here are some of my favorite flies that I've got in my box. A scud muffin, UV sow-bug, waltz worm, Ray Charles, San Juan worm, and an egg bomber. I promise fish eat these critters, and to prove it to you, let's go put this information to the test out on the water.
So I would call this a picture perfect run. All of the water looks exactly the same. So if you've seen any of our videos about runs, we are just working close to far, and we are working every little spot because I have no idea where a fish is going to be because it all looks the same. I'm using a double nymph rig right now, and I've got an egg bomber and a waltz worm on. It is middle of December. It's cold. There aren't really any bugs out. There are brown trout, rainbows, and cutthroat in this river. The brown trout, they might be wrapping up their spawn. They might still be spawning. It's a little late, but there are eggs in the river system from those browns that has been spawning, and so those rainbows and those cutties, they stack up behind the reds, and they will eat those eggs because they are a big source of protein. Protein. Rainbows are gym rats. They gotta have their protein, especially these ones. These ones are big. And if you think about it, fish this time of year, they're also trying to conserve energy. And so they're gonna move a little bit more for higher protein, bigger food items than they are tiny little midges. Fish being a little lazy this time of year and not wanting to move, sometimes you gotta hit them in the face with your flies. So I'm gonna work the water a bit more thoroughly this time of year, like work every nook and cranny. As opposed to the summer, I might have moved up by now. So I've been working this hole for what, Spencer, a good 20 minutes?
Yeah, I can't feel my toes.
Haven't caught a thing. And one of the questions we get all the time from beginners is, should I change out my flies if I'm not catching anything? And right now, No, like I have a scud, I have an egg. It's that time of year. I'm just gonna focus on depth. So I'm gonna move my indicator up about 2 feet, and then I'm gonna work the hole again, and let's see if we can get a fish. 5-minute timer. If I don't catch a fish within 5 minutes, it's Spencer's turn, because I'm kind of cold.
Alex talked about how this is a run, so you have to cover the water thoroughly because there's not a lot of features. There's very few seams to tell you where the fish are. This is actually the only seam in the whole run, and it's very subtle. I hope we can show it on the drone. I hope you can see it. But the water just barely slows up right here because there's just a tiny bit of a depth change. So this is a great little spot to target, and sometimes these can be tough to see. They can be tough to spot. It just takes a minute of staring at the water, of really comprehending what you're seeing to find these more subtle seams. I am catching bottom on every single cast right now, so I probably need to move my indicator down a little bit. I also put on just a tiny split shot because my little scud on the bottom is tiny, tiny, tiny. So I wanted to make sure my flies got down, but I think they're getting down just fine. All right. How was that not a fish?
That looks so fishy.
What in the... Okay, there's a tiny bit of moss on there. I can live with that. If there'd been no moss on that, I'd have stormed off set. I'd go back to my trailer, order me some wings, and watch a Hallmark movie.
I am absolutely stunned that we are getting no love with the egg bomber.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I might have to go with the worm. We might have to break it out.
Be my guest. I'm gonna shallow up. I've been catching pretty consistently. I'm gonna shallow this up just a bit, take a few more stabs at it, and then you are more than welcome to try it again.
So we've worked the slower water, we've worked the faster water, we've tried different depths, we've added split shot, we've tried bigger flies, we've tried smaller flies. Now I just changed the pattern. I got a weighted San Juan worm, and then I have a different color scud. This one is a little bit lighter gray, and it's a size 16. I think Spencer had an 18 on, I had a 14 on, so we're gonna go right in the middle. And we're gonna see if this is the ticket. They didn't want any eggs, maybe they want some bacon. That's a fish. Nice brown, I think. Put them on the reel. Try and stay downstream of them, put some side pressure. I'm gonna loosen my drag slightly. Yeah. That's pretty. Nice brown, super pretty.
enjoyed this fly selection masterclass video, I've got great news. There's tons more. Check out the next one right here.